fuel reviews, monthly fuel reviews have an impact or maybe affect the the basket for a month?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question actually. We some of the factors that really do drive the BNNB obviously is the energy prices obviously, and we obviously the fuel pricing, the fuel pump price, the monthly sort of adjustment, it does yes, it does affect the BNNB end result or outcome. But sometimes it's not to a huge extent. Like for example, if you look at this month of January, you saw that the pump price was sort of reduced from December. But even though it was reduced, we still saw a slight increase in the cost of living. So yes, on one hand, yes, it does affect the BNNB but it's not always that it sort of impacts it to a very huge extent. So the extent of influence does vary with every month.
Okay, let me chip in there. Let me find out from you when you talk about basic needs, Aquila. I want to find out what are some of the basic needs we're talking about, or let's zero into four types of basic needs from your view.
Right. I think generally speaking, interesting question really. Generally speaking, of course, we know that the basic needs, perhaps four, generally speaking. So you need food, you need shelter, you need air, you need water as well. So all these sort of components are sort of covered under the BNNB. For example, if you talk about food, there's a huge sort of aspect that consists of food. When you talk about shelter, we do cover that under housing as well. If you look at water as well as as well as air is it's also about the health aspect, and all these aspects are sort of covered under the BNNB. So I think the BNNB is quite comprehensive to sort of encompass all those sort of all those sort of components. For example, if we're talking about health, right? If you don't have if the cost of living is very high, it means that you're going to spend more on maybe trying to get these basic needs, the basic needs such as food, and you have limited capacity to spend on health. So if you don't have if you don't have that sort of access to health because of the high cost of living, it means that that the aspect of health is being sort of impacted negatively. So the BNNB is quite comprehensive, that it does actually cover most all of those four types.
Okay. And for the month of January, seeing that you do make this review every month, so that just run us through. Yes, we have seen that the cost of living has increased. For a family of five, you need 9,000 plus. But take us back to last year, December. What was the BNNB's findings for the month of December, so that we can make a comparison with the month of January that was under review?
Yeah. So for the month of December, because that's the previous one, that was last year. Okay. It stood somewhere around 8,900 somewhere there, and right now it's standing at 9,000 somewhere. There's been an increase of about 64 kwacha. So in this month of January, the major increase that we've noted has been the price of minimum, and in this case we're specifically on roller because that's the one that we track in terms of its nutritional value and also its more accessibility to the Zambian people. So that sort of food item did drive the cost of living this month, as well as other food prices. But also we did notice one factor that despite fuel prices sort of declining by a small percentage, and as well as the inflation rate also sort of dropping, we still noticed that the cost of living did still increase compared to the previous one. So yeah, there was a slight increase in the cost of living despite some of these economic fundamentals or economic variables sort of being a little bit stable. The exchange rate as well, we've noticed has been sort of depreciating. I think this has been the case even in the previous month. That is one trend that we keep noticing in these 2 months.
Okay. Now, when you talk about the basic needs and nutrition basket, basically the word that I'm getting from there is basic, and obviously you are tracking basic foods with nutrition value.
Absolutely.
Okay. And you have cited out roller meal as one of the foods that you have been tracking because of its nutrition value. But I want to find out, when we talk about the basic needs and nutrition basket, are we talking about basic foods such as mopani worms, such as sardines or carpenter, if you like, and these basic foods? Are we talking about those, Aquila? For the sake of our viewers out there.
Interesting question as well. So, first I should say, carpenter is actually one of the most expensive commodities on the market right now. So, this is not, I think, this is not, I feel like it's more skewed even to the rich right now than even as it was in the past, more accessible to everyone. Right now, carpenter is highly expensive. But, when we talk about the basic needs, obviously, I think we just looked at some of the commodities that are readily accessible on the market, that are sort of like you did rightly mention, that are sort of have a low sort of in terms of the cost. The cost is sort of lower, the price is sort of lower, and also they have this nutritional value. So we didn't want to make a very big, like, for example, you did mention some of those the worms. Did you mention the worms?
The mopani worms.
The mopani worms. Yeah. So we still made a basket where the nutritional value that you get from there could be still gotten from the commodities that are in our basket. So it's a representation of what's ready on the market. But of course, if there was a chance to sort of incorporate those as well, it'd be great.
Okay, but you don't track them? The mopani worms?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Those are seasonal, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, they are seasonal. So we also try to look at things that are accessible throughout the whole year, so that people have that constant access.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alfred?
Okay. So Aquila, I wanted just to find out in a nutshell, what are some of the things that you feel can drastically have or maybe see a drop in the BNB going forward?
I think first of all we need to acknowledge the fact that presently Zambia is going through we have a debt crisis situation. So we've noticed that there's over the years over 40% of the budget is spent on debt servicing, and this sort of puts government in a very tight position to choose between debt service and also social sector spending. So because of limited allocation to social sector spending, social protection, and all these things that sort of help even the most vulnerable in our communities, it becomes very difficult to arrest the cost of living. So I think what really needs to be done is we need to see that government is able to begin to the government is already sort of in the process of debt restructuring, and the process so far has been good. But we need to ensure that we reach a position where we have, we're not paying a whole lot of debt service at the expense of social sector spending, so that we can be able to protect the most vulnerable in our communities. So that is one aspect. But also going deeper into the conversation, especially if we're talking about the minimum issue right now. I think if there's any, if one of the recommendations that we do give in our statement really is that if there's any sort of maize exports, that maize exportation that is happening right now, or minimum exportation that is happening right now, maybe we could sort of try and cut down on that. If there's any illegal exportation as well, the smuggling and all that, government needs to most definitely curb that. But also we've noticed that government did try to provide, release maize to millers, so that they can be able to, some sort of subsidies, so that they can be able to, mill that maize and provide much cheaper, mini meal. So that's a good step. So I think we need to see that, and also we need to be able to see more allocations to the agriculture sector, because if we're really going to improve, the cost of living, especially in terms of food is very directly related to inflation. It drives inflation a lot in Zambia. So we need to see that substantial increment in agricultural allocations.
Okay. So in a nutshell, maybe somebody would wonder to say, as JCTR, because most of the time when you announce these figures, maybe these amounts, they say the latest coming to 9,000 plus, one wonders how you carry the survey. How do you do the survey first?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so on a more broad perspective, the BNNB is conducted in 16 towns in Zambia, and Lusaka is just one of them. Okay. So mostly when we release the report, we just release the report. When we release that statement on the cost of living, we release the one from Lusaka here in the capital city, where Lusaka is the most expensive town in Zambia. So that's the one that we sort of release in terms of the statement. But we still track 15 other towns, and we also share what the cost of living is like exactly in those other towns. So the BNNB, what we do is we track food items and as well as non-food items. So I think I've really spoken a lot about the food items during this interview. So we've talked about the food, the kind of food that is high in nutritional value, but also least expensive. So we follow the cost of diet linear sort of programming in terms of the food items. Then we also look at the non-food items. We look at things like energy, maybe the price of charcoal.
Yeah.
We look at the price of electricity, housing, and all those things. And we also try and look at the some other expenses, for example, transport.
Yeah.
We look at some of the thanks to the free education policy now.
Yeah.
We don't really track the amount
education part,
exactly, but we do track the uniform prices of in these various districts. So it's quite a comprehensive sort of basket, and when we release it, I think most of the items are really there, and you'll be able to see just how comprehensive it is.
Okay, well, that's quite a conversation. Maybe giving it to Joe.
My final question to Aquila is you talked about conducting this survey in different provinces in Zambia. So my question is, for instance, if you're conducting this survey in Central Province or Western Province, does it differ from the amount that you conclusively give for Lusaka Province?
Yeah, interesting question. Yeah, absolutely. So you definitely find that different towns in Zambia have they have their own cost of living.
Okay.
So Lusaka is obviously the highest. Some towns like Lusaka, where there's a lot of economic activity, like Lusaka, Solwezi, Kitwe, you find that the cost of living is really high in these places, because maybe because of the mining activities there. Lusaka, obviously, there's a lot of demand. There's a huge population here, so those are some of the factors. But also you look at other towns like Chipata, Mansa, and the cost of living is relatively lower because first of all, housing there is the cost of housing is lower. Maybe the cost of energy is lower as well, charcoal and all those things. So there definitely are variations, but some stand out more than others in terms of the magnitude of the cost of living.
Okay. Aquila Ngonga, thank you so much. Hope I pronounced your name well. Thank you so much for coming through to the Crown Royal Breakfast this morning. It was a pleasure hosting.
Thank you so much. I was happy to be here.
Okay. So there you have it, viewers. That was Aquila, a representative from the Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, JCTR, making an appearance on the Breakfast Show this morning. We go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Chuluvi, Patriotic Front Member of Parliament, Honorable Mlenga Fube. Stay tuned.